Hello and welcome back to I Buy Black, Black Friday, 24 hours of Black Friday. And I would like to welcome our next guest. If you would please introduce yourself and your book, I believe.
Yes, my name is Deborah Kelly. I'm the author of the book. I'm a retired teacher and a certified parenting educator, and the author of the book, The Turnaround, Parenting Tips for Improving Your Child's Academic Success, How to Make Your Child Smarter, Learning Ready, and Nonviolent. It contains
Awesome.
26 lifestyle tips that parents should be using in the home to make your child emotionally, physically healthy, capable, productive, smarter individuals ready for this global economy.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the book and what caused you to develop it.
Well, as a teacher, I saw too many African American youths not functioning to their full potential. And I said, it doesn't make sense because we are the descendants of kings and queens and the creators of mathematics, civics, science, technology. And it's no excuse for us to be doing as we were doing in school. It was no excuse for that. And what I realized was when they started kindergarten, they did not have the fundamental skills to make them qualified and capable of learning on the level of other kindergarten students. And I talked to kindergarten teachers who had said that a lot of our students did not start school knowing what they should have known. And unfortunately, kindergarten teachers and teachers in general teach to those who are ready to learn. And those who are not ready to learn, they are relegated to the periphery, unfortunately. And what happens to those who are not talked to and who are ignored? They know that they are, and they become behavior problems because they say, you are not going to ignore me. You're going to acknowledge me, whether I'm doing something right or wrong. And normally, it's misbehavior that gets them acknowledged. And that reputation lasts them all 12 years of their educational experience. So it's the parents' responsibility to make them ready for learning. And in the book, in my book, it tells parents what your child should know by the age of 5. And you have 5 years to do it. Now, the more you talk to your child, the more intelligent your child is going to be. Every environment is a learning environment. And that old phrase, children are seen and not heard, that's a misnomer. That's a myth. You should be talking to your children, exposing them to much information and knowledge. Learning is fun. But, somehow some of us have had negative experiences and trauma with learning, and that's what turns us off. But if we have a loving environment, an environment that's full of creativity, where we're permitted to explore and express ourselves, we love learning.
It's
And
true. It's very true.
yes, and that is a step before contributing to the world. The first step, Erickson, Adler, social biologists have, the surviving, thriving cycle says that we have to have a base in which to belong, a feeling of belonging. And then with that base of belonging, that we are free to learn. And then we're free to learn all we can. And the last stage is that we can contribute our learning, what we've learned to the world. And so that is crucial, that stage of belonging, the feeling of belonging in the home. And so it starts in the homes. It really does. So parents should know that they have the power to make their children more intelligent. IQ is just how much you know. IQ is. So if a child doesn't know
Right.
too much, their IQ is going to be very low. If they know a lot, their IQ is going to be very high.
So, would you say that So I assume the premise of your book is that this is mostly an at-home problem. What are the elements, social elements that you would say contribute to this problem just at home, or is it only parenting? Is there a social aspect to who your parents are around, your greater family life? Or is this just really something that parents can improve all on their own?
Parents can improve it because it starts in the homes, but there is something called the iceberg analogy, where I got my certified parenting certification. The iceberg analogy is that the behavior that we see in children, the tip of the iceberg is above the water, and that's what we see, called outward behavior. But below that, that is a larger part, is emotional health. That's how the child feels about themselves, their self-concept, their core belief system about who they are. And that is developed in the homes most of the time. Then the biggest layer that's underneath the water is relational health. And that's a relationship that we have with our parents, the environment, school, friends, church, mosque, synagogue. And so that plays a bigger part in how we interact with the environment. So that outward behavior is just the tip of the iceberg. So when we see a child that's acting up, then we should look underneath that behavior and say, what's going on with that child? When we see a child that's acting out with undue attention seeking, we know that we all need attention. We all need to be seen, heard, and validated. And if we're not, undue attention takes place. And so don't just look at that undue attention, the acting out. Look at what's going on underneath that, beneath that. Children also need protection. They need a little power, and they need some withdrawal. And there's all negative manifestations if they don't get those things. So we as parents have the power to self-actualize our children, to make them feel good about who they are, so that they go into the world with a feeling of empowerment, that they are able to develop and sustain relationships, that they're able to see themselves in a positive light and the world is optimistic, that they're able to like themselves and like other people. They're able to take risk. They're able to have failure and pick themselves up and start all over again. But that starts from within. Motivation is from within. And as a teacher, that was the most difficult thing, is to motivate somebody who feels that they are not exceptional, that they feel that they are a failure mentality. That was the toughest thing to turn around at the high school level.
So
and that was a challenge.
So you're trying to get parents to turn this around. Who would you say is the primary audience for your book? Who is best to read this?
Parents, grandparents, caregivers, foster parents, anybody who is interacting with children, daycare workers. I've had daycare workers on my book, and I've gone in to talk to parents, and I've gone in to talk to daycare workers. I've talked to elementary school teachers who have told me, I've given my book away sometimes, and they say, oh yeah, I've read your book. That was one of the books that we had to read, and with our teachers workshop. I said, really? And they said, yeah. And I've had teachers tell me that that's a resource that they use, that they refer to, because there's so much good information in there. So many good chapters, and even how to teach your children financial success, because that's so important, to be able to take care of your money, to be able, yes, and I have about investing and the difference between debit and credit, and So many good things. It is just so full, and it's not that thick. So, I use as few words as possible just to explain what I mean, to justify what I mean.
Amazing, amazing. So great resource for the whole community. Great. Where is it available? I know we got this cover image from Amazon. Is it just Amazon? Do you sell direct? Are you on the I Buy Black directory?
Yes, I'm on the I Buy Black directory, and you can also call me, and I will send you a copy. If you send me, if you want to pay by PayPal, you want to pay by credit card, you may call me 215-840-5544. It's in our hands, folks. We cannot depend upon the school district doing it all. We know who's in charge of the school district. We know it's not to our benefit to leave it entirely to the hands of somebody else. And where else would you suffer the consequence of somebody else doing a job for you and you say, I'm going to, the consequences are mine? The consequences have to be yours when you put the effort in. When you put the effort in, you will see positive consequences. So we must not depend upon, don't wait until 5 years old. The ability to learn decreases at the age of 5. Isn't that something?
Could you tell me I'm sorry, could you tell me your number one more time?
215-840-5544.
Thanks so much.
The ability to learn decreases at the age of 5. Children seen and not heard. I don't know who said that. I don't know how that started, but it probably started with our oppressor.
Well, my grandpa said it for one.
Yes, I remember. Yes, and you remember? Yeah. So when you think about it, how are we going to develop proficiency in a skill that we don't use?
It's true. It's very true.
Practice makes perfect. So if we want our children to develop active listening skills, we talk to them. If we want them to develop speaking skills and sentences, we let them speak and we listen to them and we interact back and forth. We're teaching them standard English by talking with them. We're teaching them, filling your child's head with much information and knowledge as possible, as young as possible, is so necessary to expand the ability to take in information. If no information is taken in, we're not expanding the ability to take in information.
Would this also have to do with the idea that is if you read to your children, reading to your children helps them advance much faster than...
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. And I have a chapter on that as well. Reading to your child as young as possible, before your child is able to even sit up. Cradle them in your lap with this big book, big pictures, and point out those pictures. So you may not think they're taking it in, but they are. And before you know it, when you take them outside, they'll be saying, the dog, doggy, catty, clouds, sun, moon, because you have taught them that without them even knowing that they were taking it in. They were associating what you've taught them with the environment, with real life experiences.
And so we've been talking a lot tonight about health and health resources for the community. In addition to just improving the child's academic success, are there tips that you might have for improving their health outcomes across the entirety of their life, just from your interaction with them in childhood?
Oh, definitely. I have a chapter on feeding your children nutritional foods. The baby food, the jars on the supermarket shelf. I never fed my children those foods. It's so easy you have a blender. If you're having broccoli for us, we should be eating healthy. If you're eating broccoli, sweet potatoes, string beans, any vegetable that you're eating, put it in the blender and feed that to your child. That's so much healthier than getting that baby jar of food. You know what they said, it was a couple of years ago, that the apple juice was nothing but caramel colored sugar water? And they
Yes.
said that, but how quickly we forget. So it's so important that we feed our children nutritional foods, healthy body, healthy mind. My electricity went off a couple of winters ago. It was during the winter, and I could not cook. I was cold, and I had to go to school to teach. Well, I didn't feel like teaching, didn't feel like learning, didn't feel like interacting with anybody. I thought, wow, children who don't have food, clothing, shelter, which is a first step in being self-actualized. If that first step is not satisfied, they can't go to the next step. I felt how that felt. And I said, oh my goodness, how important it is for me to put that word out. So you think your children can survive off non-healthy foods and being cold and not being provided the basics? You're very much mistaken. That interrupts their process towards being self-actualized.
And
So
the,
that's
and
really
that's something that a lot of people in the U.S. don't even realize is how many children, especially children of color, are in homes where they're food insecure is the polite term for it. But
that's
yeah,
right.
where the next meal is a question, and how important interacting with even in local government or elections can be towards resolving even those problems. Leading us to a place where we do have our basic needs met so that we can be better overall.
That's right. That's right. And if that need is not satisfied, I talked about the benefits, the characteristics of being self-actualized. Our children will never get there. Do you know about only 5, 6, 7% of individuals are self-actualized? That the first step is food, clothing, and shelter, a base for belonging. And if they don't have that, then they don't develop trust and safety, have those issues. And if they don't develop trust and safety, they can't go to the next level, which is feeling love. And if they don't feel love, they can't feel self-esteem. They don't develop a healthy self-esteem. And if they don't have a healthy self-esteem, they will never be self-actualized, which is seeing the world in an optimistic way, taking a risk, being able to fail and pick yourself up and start all over again, being able to develop and maintain healthy relationships, loving yourself and loving other people, being outward centered and not just inward centered, just not being, worried about yourself. You've seen self-centered people. They don't have it all together.
We've had a pretty big example of self-centered people for the last 4 years.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. That's right. Not self-actualized. And we want our young people, we want to give them that gift to be self-actualized. They go into the world and say, here I am. It doesn't matter if you like me or not. I have enough like for me to go around. You can knock me down, but you can't keep me down. You can talk about me, but it's going to roll off my back like a water off a duck's back. So we want to develop people who are like that. But we have to provide those things that I indicated: food, clothing, and shelter. They have to go to feeling trust and safety. They have to feel love, self-esteem, and self-actualization.
Absolutely.
It's sequential. It's sequential.
So obviously, I do all this creative work all the time. I grew up in a creative household, but as an early childhood educator specialist, what would you advise somebody to do to drive that creativity, spark that creativity in their child?
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a process, but I would say at that level, the creativity, Provide a space for them to create. It's the environment. Provide a space where they have crayons and crafts and all that they need to be creative, to invent. Respecting them, not putting them down. I have some discipline techniques in here as well. Not embarrassing them. Make sure that you're developing the self-esteem in them. Calling them by positive names and not negative names. Making sure that they feel good about themselves and they're in a healthy environment where they feel that somebody's got their back, where they're seen and they're heard. Excellent opportunity around the table, the eating table. And I'm not saying we're just dinner, it could be breakfast, it could be lunch, it could be dinner. To have them express themselves, to talk about, ask them open-ended questions. What made you happy today? What made you sad today? There was a young lady I spoke with, and she said that her father would always ask her, what if you failed at today? Which is a good thing because we learn from our failures. And she would say, she would talk about the things she tried and she failed, but he would say, well, that's all right. It's a learning lesson. You can try again tomorrow. And I thought, wow, that's right. That we shouldn't be afraid to fail. That's not the end of us because we fail. Successful people have failed more often than unsuccessful people. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Successful people have failed more often than unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people have the mindset, their self-fulfilling prophecy is, well, I'm not going to make it anyway, so why try? See, this is why we as parents, when our children do fail and they'll spill milk or they'll spill this, not to make a big deal out of it. No big deal. Try again. Right. You'll succeed. See, that's what we as parents have to learn. Huh?
In the words of some modern prophets, you might say it. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So.
That's right.
But, right. I just wanted to thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you bringing your book to the I Buy Black Friday. Are any final parting words of wisdom for us?
Well, I would say separate your child's behavior from the child. Let your child know just because they've made a mistake or they failed or made a bad decision or judgment, that is not who they are. Treat your child as if they already are what you want them to be. And through your efforts, they will become what they ought to be.
All right.
Call me for any advice. Call me to purchase my book, 26 Lifestyle Tips. And I include mostly everything that I could think of. 215-840-5544. Parenting is the most important job there is on this planet. 215-840-5544. To have the hands and future of another human being in your hands, we have the power to shape them into what we want them to be.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, and really hope everybody has written down this phone number. It's been scrolling across the bottom here for a little bit. We look forward to talking with you in the future, and thank you so much for your wisdom and getting this information out there in the community.
Well, thank you, James Jackson. I appreciate it, and thank you to the I Buy Black family. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with all of you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. You also.